That was pretty nice little beach area. Let's go check that out.
We already saw it. Originally manufactured by Bracky.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Did your boat broke?
Yeah.
That worked?
Yeah. Just when we got out, remember one time when I pulled it, I saw that it was great, and then it was just, yeah, this is the first time that we've taken it out, and the first trip, an hour in, well, not even an hour in, it was like 15 minutes in, and I just turned it on. Yeah, it was making me go out yeah, that'll take care of it perfectly. Yeah, that'll fix it. You guys got on the boat, okay. Yeah. And I don't know what to do, I'm sure out here, it's gonna be pretty. Yeah, so you have some really cool spots, but you have to be careful. A couple people told me. Can you punch a boat on one? We're out in reaches all the way down to the water. Sometimes they'll lower it so far that you can't even get in there, but it's not that bad. So it's actually a go.
This thing says I'm logged in and I didn't even log in. How long you do this?
Trying to fix myself, hopefully it can't be too bad. Bring it in. I'm probably gonna ruin it somehow. I know. I ordered it so I can try and fix it. Hopefully it's not bad.
I got a dead battery in the clock. It's been dead after 7 for a while.
Right, twice a day?
Yeah.
Hey, it's just like the one at the back of the room that's right twice a day, not the one, the digital one above.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I kept wondering how.
How do we know the time?
Yeah, I'm looking back there. Back.
I don't know.
I thought they were just gonna come.
How are you doing?
I thought they was coming, but they
How are you? I'm in need of that. I'm used to Rex, so whenever you're ready, I'll just join you.
Are you ready? All right, I will call this meeting to order. It is 7:30. First thing on the agenda, would you please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Mayor Terry Wycombe,
Wycombe, present.
Vice Mayor Jacqueline Wells. Present. Member Aaron Durst.
Here?
Member Darrell Gardner.
Here.
Member Debarry Martinez.
Here.
Member Linda Smith. Member Chris Weisenberg.
Here. Thank you. Next thing on the agenda is public participation. This is a time when somebody from the public can, get up and speak. There is a 5-minute limit, but this is a time if there's something, you as the general public would like to say, now is when. All right, hearing none, we'll go on to the next thing to the agenda is, approval of the minutes for May 18th. Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May the 18th, 2021 as presented or amended.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the city council regular meeting minutes of May 18th, 2021 as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please open online voting.
Online voting is open.
It logged me out all of a sudden.
Do you want me to do it manual?
I vote yes.
Okay.
Now, it's gonna take me a second, I'm sorry.
Online voting has now closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Well, my computer has logged me out, hang on. Thank you for your patience. Next thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the May 18th special meeting. Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the special council meeting minutes of May 18th, 2021 as presented or amended.
Second.
There's been a motion made and, seconded to approve the city council special meeting minutes of May 18th, 2021 as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please open online voting.
It's open. So yours hasn't come, Terry.
Everybody but me?
Do we-
I vote yes. I'm still logged in, I think.
Okay. Online voting has now closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
Oh, this computer's giving me fits.
Sometimes you have to refresh it, Terry.
Well, I did a second ago, but. Okay, and then we did the agenda, correct?
No, we're on the,
Okay.
we're on the.
That's where we're at.
Okay. Vice Mayor Wells?
I motion to approve the June 1st, 2021 city council agenda as presented.
The what?
June 1st. It says May 18th on there, but
Okay, okay.
it should be June 1st.
I thought it was on the wrong page again. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the June 1st, 2021 City Council agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please open online voting. Yes. Because I don't know if I'm hooked up or not.
It does say the May 18th document, then. Sorry.
Yeah, we do.
Jody, does that need to be changed in there?
She's changing it right now.
I don't know if it's gonna refresh it, so just wanna vote yes.
I vote yes.
Thanks, Carol.
Online voting has now closed. The motion carries with 6 yes.
All right, the next thing on our agenda is a proclamation, for, to proclaim, June 1st, 2021, Sydney Thorvaldson Day. So at this time, I would have, Vice Mayor Wells read the, proclamation for me.
It's an honor to read this. A proclamation by Mary Harry L. Wycombe on behalf of the governing body for the city of Rawlins, Carbon County, Wyoming, proclaiming June 1st, 2021 as Sydney Thorvaldson Day. Whereas Sydney Thorvaldson, a recent graduating senior from Rawlins High School, is one of the most accomplished and decorated distance runners in area history, both nationally and statewide. And whereas Sydney Thorvaldson has exemplified strong leadership and an unfailing sense of determination throughout her high school career, thereby leaving her indisputable, lasting mark on both Rawlins High School and the city of Rawlins. And whereas, during her freshman year at Rawlins High School, Sydney Thorvaldson achieved the title of state champion in cross country, state champion in outdoor track in the 800, 1600, and 3200, together with being named the Gatorade Athlete of the Year for the state of Wyoming in cross country and placing 9th in the nation at the Nike Cross Country Nationals. And whereas, during her sophomore year at Rawlins High School, Sydney Thorvaldson achieved the title of state champion in cross country, state champion in indoor track in the 800, 1600, and 3200, state champion in outdoor track in the medley relay, 800, 1600, and 3200, together with being named the Gatorade Athlete of the Year for the state of Wyoming in both cross-country and track, and placing 13th in the nation at the Nike Cross Country Nationals, and was named the Nike NW Regional Champion in cross-country. And whereas, during her junior year at Rawlins High School, Sydney Thorvaldson achieved the title of state champion in cross-country, state champion in indoor track in the 800, 1600, and 3200, together with being named the Gatorade Athlete of the Year for cross-country and track. She was named the Nike NW Regional Champion in cross-country, and her run was the only sub-17-minute race in the history of the state of Idaho. Disappointingly, outdoor state track was canceled due to COVID restrictions. However, she made up for the disappointment with her heart-stopping third place finish at the Nike Cross Country Nationals. And whereas, during her senior year at Rawlins High School, Sydney Thorvaldson was named national champion in the cross country, winning her race by 45 seconds over the field, setting the course record. National indoor track champion in both the mile and 2 mile, and ran the second fastest 2-mile time in the United States high school girls' history. She earned the title of state champion in cross country and state champion in the medley relay before being pulled out of the meet due to injury. Capping off her senior year was being named the National Gatorade Athlete of the Year, thereby becoming the first Wyoming athlete in any sport to ever achieve this national recognition. And whereas, Sydney Thorvaldson has won more Wyoming High School Activities Association state championships than any other Wyoming athlete in history, and is a finalist for the prestigious Millward Simpson Award, graduating with a 4.0 grade point average. It is with incredible pride that we recognize the commitment and dedication of Sydney Thorvaldson for her tireless efforts and achievements throughout her high school career, and who continues to serve as a shining representative of Rawlins and Carbon County across our great state. And whereas, Sydney Thorvaldson is one of the most accomplished distance runners in area history, with postgraduate plans that include a commitment to the University of Arkansas, where she will be a member of the cross-country and track and field teams, and continue to positively represent her home state of Wyoming. She should be honored with this recognition. Now therefore, I, Terry L. Wyckoff, Mayor of the City of Rollins, Carbon County, Wyoming, do hereby acknowledge and proclaim June 1st, 2021 as Sidney Thorvaldson Day in Rollins, Carbon County, Wyoming. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Rollins to be affixed hereto this first date of June 2021.
Are you able to come up here?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't wanna put you through more than you needed to be. On behalf of the city of Rollins, we're so proud of you.
Thank you
You
so
just
much.
have made us so proud, and just keep running, even on the crest.
Turn around and.
Oh, sure cameras.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Bonnie has some words for us.
I'm gonna turn this a little bit, if that is okay.
First of all, thanks to Sydney for being here, your parents, Chris and Wendy, your sister Lexi, and I think family, Mr. Newman, hiding back there, for being here for this occasion. I wanna, thank and commend the council, Honorable Mayor Wycombe, Honorable Vice Mayor, Wells, council members, Durst, Martinez, Garner, and I know Ms. Smith is not here tonight, but we thank her, and of course, I wanna thank Chris Weisenberg for getting the ball rolling for this and doing some, as you put it, trying to bridge the gap between city and school. I think that's a pretty cool thing, and as well, Ms. Amy Boss did some stuff behind the scenes, so I wanna thank her. And, I wanna thank all the, coaches and staff from the school. They've got some distinguished guests here from the school district, Carbon County School District number 2, being Frank Arce, Hayden Honfold, Derek Chandler, Richard Thompson, Bree Court, thanks for changing your name, I don't think I could have done your name. Charlie Hetherington, Clayton McSpadden, and most definitely Rob Tillotson and Coach Nancy Steinberg. I'm jealous of you two, because you guys had ringside seats to Sydney for her high school career, so, and, that's pretty cool. As well, RHS Principal Marnie Garner, who, come to find out, probably has deeper connections to Sydney than any of us, other than Chris and Wendy, because she threw the, baby shower for Wendy before she was born, so she goes back a few days. And of course, Activities Director Casey Garnhart did a lot of work behind the scenes to get her here, so thank you, Casey. And, Superintendent Mike Hamill just texted me before I came down and said he's sorry he couldn't make it, he wasn't feeling well, but he really, really wanted to be here, wanted me to tell you, Sydney, that he wished that he could be here. So, thanks to all you for being here and sharing this day for Sydney. We just heard a pretty complete list of Sydney's accomplishments, so I won't rehash a bunch of those, but I will expand on a few highlights, and I want to talk about some attributes. In the words of Mike Hamill, and Mike Hamill is a walking encyclopedia for Wyoming high school sports, and anything he says is 99.9% true, and he goes back a long ways. He said, Sydney is the most decorated athlete in Wyoming state history in high school sports. She had 19 championships, more than any other male or female, and take into account that she missed out on potentially 8 more with her junior year being canceled due to COVID, and her senior year now with an injury that she could have had, and there's not even a close second, so, pretty cool. She's got numerous state records, she's broke many of her own, holds records on nearly every course and track that she's, run on, never lost a race in Wyoming over 800 meters since her 6th grade year, if you can believe that. She is the current national champion in not only the 1 mile, but the 2 mile, and she is the current national cross-country champion for, high school girls. As was so well put in the proclamation, she is the 6th-time winner of the esteemed Gatorade Player of the Year in Wyoming. Unbelievable there, 4 in cross-country, 2 in track. She was recently named as the National Gatorade Player of the Year for cross-country, the first ever athlete, male or female, to earn that honor in any sport in Wyoming. And, as we pointed out, in that, has the distinction of running the 2nd fastest time in the history of the United States for girls high school. unbelievable. And she is a finalist for the prestigious Millward Simpson Award. So I think that's gonna be named pretty quick, but my money's on Sydney on that one, we'll see how that goes. And while all these records, championships, and honors are very impressive, and they take a lot of time, a lot of preparation, a lot of workout, to accomplish, there are some other things I wanna talk about that, and that Sydney has accomplished all these accolades while being a member of the Student Council, a member of National Honor Society, a community volunteer, she's a teacher's aide at church, somehow managed to keep a 4.0 grade average throughout her high school, and this past week graduated as, I believe, the salutatorian of her class. So Sydney, wow, it's amazing. I spoke to a lot of folks, mostly people associated with the school district, and the story always seems to be the same, that Sydney's a great student, a great teammate, a great friend, and just a great person in general, who, aside from the track, just has a way of blending in. And I know not too long ago, I watched on Facebook, a race that she was in Texas. She used to seek out the best races in the country to go against the best in the country. And she was in Texas in a 5K, and she won the race. But coming down the stretch, she's the only one coming down the stretch. And in that race, she was up against who at that time was the number 2 girl in the nation. They had Sydney ranked 3rd, I believe. And that girl was not even in the camera coming across. Sydney crosses the finish line, and within a minute, she's doing an interview, and she's not even winded, just seems to be ready to go for another race. And her interview was just very refreshing, and she was very humble and smiling and happy-go-lucky. And it really does make us Rollins proud to see that. I know where you get that from. You have some amazing parents, Chris and Wendy. Wendy is an amazing athlete herself, went on to the collegiate level. Very positive attitude, who also was a Millward Simpson finalist when she was in school, but I think your daughter's gonna one-up you on this one and win it all. Chris, I'm gonna age myself here, but I coached Chris in Little League Baseball. Do you remember those days, Chris? He was a great athlete, very positive, and just a dream for a coach to have, and so I know where Sydney gets her humility at. It's pretty cool. Later on, I got to play a lot of volleyball with Chris and Wendy, sometimes with them, which was really great, sometimes against them, which was pretty frustrating, but they too were very humble in victory. And I can't say they were humble in defeat, 'cause I've never seen them lose yet, but we'll be keeping an eye on them for that. But in closing, I want to tell 2 really quick stories, one of which I only heard about and one of which I actually witnessed with Sydney. And when I think it was her 8th grade year, she was in a race somewhere here in Wyoming, and it was a multiple lap race. And Sydney crosses the finish line, and the track official could not believe that somebody was crossing the finish line already, and was just sure that she had to run another lap still. And I think Coach Steinberg had to get involved, and they got it straightened out, and Sydney did win the race. But I started thinking, I wonder if they would have made her run that other lap, surprising to them then, probably not so much now, I wouldn't be surprised if she had still won that race, another lap. The other one, being here a few years ago, my nephew was in town, and he moved to North Dakota, but he graduated here in Rollins, and I was talking to my sister, and she said, Kevin's running in the color dash, the 5K race tomorrow. And he interrupted her and said, I didn't tell you I was running in it, I told you I was winning it. And I thought, man, you better watch out, there's a young girl here in town that just might give you all you want. And he rolled his eyes, and I gotta go to the race tomorrow. So I got up, went down to the golf course, and Copper France kicked the race off, and they're going, and true to his word, my nephew took off in the lead. He later told me after the race, he goes, yeah, I seen that girl had to be the one you were talking about run by me, and he said, I just knew that little girl could not keep that pace up. He goes, I had a good pace going, and I just knew she would wear down, I would catch her and pass her, and I'd win the race. So it was at the golf course, they ran the back 9, and they're running around, and if you're at the clubhouse, you can see the tee boxes of hole 3 off in the distance, and, several minutes that went by, and pretty soon one person comes over, and it's Sydney. So I'm snickering, thinking, oh, I can't wait to tease him now, and she gets about 25 yards down, and I'm waiting for him, and Terry Ray Schinkel, who was the same age as Kevin, was just out of the military, so he was in tip-top shape, he was running the race too. Neither one of them will come over. She gets down halfway to the number 2 green, still neither one of them come over. I get to the number 2 green, still neither one of them there. Now, this is like 100 yards. I said, oh, neither one of them can catch her now. I said, she's gonna win this, but I said, they'll come over before she gets to the number 2 tee boxes. Well, she gets to the 2 tee boxes, and nobody's coming over the hill. She gets down to the number one green, still nobody over that hill, and I'm thinking, okay, either this girl took a shortcut, or those two fools ran the wrong way. I said, there's no way she's beating these two young guys in their twenties and fit condition by this much, but she runs down the number one fairway, and just before she gets across the finish line, here they come over the hill, and she crossed the finish line, and they finally come across Carrie and my nephew right close to each other, and so I run over to tease my nephew and say, hey, what happened? I said, Sydney already went home, took a shower, came back here tonight. And he's bent over, and he's not saying anything, not only because he's winded, but his eyes were just big and he's shaking his head, because he was in disbelief that somebody could beat him that bad in the fight of his life. And it was one of them wow factor moments for me, and I remember having a talk with Chris after that, you know, and watching Sydney. I seen her in Saratoga one time, and I told Chris, I said, that girl dominates her sport better than anybody that I've ever seen in Wyoming history, and that has come to fruition, and you really have, and it was pretty cool to see. But the other thing I'd like to say is I want to say thank you to Chris and Wendy and Sydney for staying in Rollins, because athletes of this magnitude oftentimes gets lured to bigger schools, bigger towns, bigger programs with the guise or a promise of better recruitment, better scholarship opportunities, better possible sponsorship possibilities at some point. But they decided to stay here, and it's really cool that we've got to see Sydney run around this town. We get a honk at her, and I hope that I know that you know that at a recent race in Indiana she went to, seeking out top competition again. It was a really bad weather day, and it was a tough track, and I don't think any of the runners, as I heard it, was excited about running that day, because it was cold and windy. But Sydney ran the race, and she wins it, of course. And but not only does she win the race, but she sets the course record in unfavorable cold and windy conditions. And another wow factor is all the people at the national level. So that's pretty cool. And so, Sydney, you really do make us Rollins proud. You're putting Rollins on the map. Recently, Sydney had Rollins America on ESPN Sports Center because of her accolades, and it's pretty cool for all of us to see. So, as you move on, I know this is gonna, you know, you're running, and your attitude is gonna take you to a lot of cool places on this planet. You're gonna rub shoulders with some of the most amazing track athletes in the history, like Usain Bolt or Caitlyn Jenner, who knows, who you might meet. It's gonna be really cool, and we look forward to seeing you when you're back in town for maybe off-season or holidays and running around. And when we honk at you, know that we're honking for you to thrive on with school and track and just life in general. And I can tell you that we, much like your opponents and my nephew Kevin, will be watching from a distance. So, thank you, everybody. Sydney Thorwaldson.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
I hate to move on to the next thing, it's kind of boring, but compared to what we've been through already, but, the Old Point, Joint Powers Board. We have a gentleman that has reapplied to be on that board. Ryan, are you here?
Don't see him.
I don't think so.
I did not remember to call him today, but I did touch base before.
Okay. Vice Mayor Wells?
I make a motion to reappoint Ryan Grosick to the Old Pen Joint Powers Board for a term ending April 30th, 2024.
Do I hear a second? There's been a motion made and seconded to reappoint Ryan Grosick to the Old Pen Joint Powers Board for a term ending April 30th, 2024. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please open online voting.
Online voting has now closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, thank you. The next thing on our agenda is the city manager's report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, just have one update for you today. The financial audit was not completed on Friday as we hoped that it would be. I do know that he's working on it. He said that he was gonna be working over the weekend on it to get it to us. I know that he sent a couple of things to Jody today, but hopefully it will be here pretty soon. I think it will. And then secondly, Jason, do you want to come up for a second? Go ahead with your item. Sure.
Honorable Mayor, City Council. A few council meetings ago, we approached with, the idea that the trees that we planted down there at the cemetery for the urban tree, project, Abby, from the University of Wyoming Extension had 12 additional trees left over from that grant. And so I think we approached the council to see if it would be okay to put those at Bolton Park and Martinez Park. And I think we were just looking for clarification, because I understand there's some issues with the ordinance, with the fencing, that I think that the council and staff is looking to address. And so, prior to actually putting these trees in the ground, I wanted to see what council felt, if we should wait for the ordinance to be updated to put this fencing in, or if we can move forward with just this project, because it's kind of in the process. If we don't, these trees kind of need to be planted like last week, and so, we would probably have to give these trees to another community, and then we could look for other funding to proceed with this project if we'd like to, if council's wishes to wait on that. So I guess we were just looking to see what council thought as far as this particular project and getting those trees in the ground. The other option is to go off what the ordinance reads, which would be like a chain link, I think is the only thing that would work, and it's really not the type of fencing that would work well for protecting trees in this situation, and we would probably remove that in the future if we had to do that. And then the other thing is that's not covered under the grant, so that would be something that the city would have to put the bill for. So just kind of looking for maybe some discussion and see how council felt about moving forward with just these 12 trees, and then we can wait on anything else until we can take a look at that, a closer look at that ordinance.
Councilman Martinez.
Yeah, you know, I drove around and looked at what we got, and I wasn't affected by how they look. That's one thing. The other thing is that I don't have any problem at all, placing those trees where you mentioned, Martinez Park, Bolton Park. If we have the room there, that's a good place to put them. I would strongly support that. I guess I'll wait till after the discussion, on the fencing, before I make a decision on the ordinance thing, but that's where I'm at.
Councilman Durst.
So Amy, I'm gonna throw the ball at you. I think a lot of this just comes down to some legal questions. I guess I would argue that a fencing ordinance would be for fencing around a house, probably not for a tree. What does the ordinance say? I'll be honest, I haven't looked. It's been a couple of long weeks. And you guys have been so scot-free of stress and worry.
I'll be honest with you.
Cause my understanding was it was fairly vague, and so to me, you would just roll it over in our favor, change the ordinance, and then be fine with it. I still think the ordinance refers to housing and not tree fencing. I think it's two separate issues. I don't think the ordinance was ever meant
And I
to
think
address
that
trees.
could potentially be the simple fix to the ordinance, is separating that, you know, fencing for residents to fence in the property, and then fencing to keep animals out of trees and bushes and shrubs and things like that. And that's probably what was intended, but the way it's read, it's misinterpreted. So I understand the question, because we don't want to move forward with something that's against what our ordinance reads. So I think it just needs to be modified a little bit. I don't think it would take a lot, but that's just my opinion.
I feel that, there's a difference between a fence and a barrier. And I know that if you don't put some type of a barrier around a new tree in Rollins, you might as well just feed it to the deer. But the thought of having to put a chain link fence around every one of these new trees in the whole town, to me, is ludicrous. My suggestion is plant the trees, put whatever around it that will protect those trees, because they are an investment. We shouldn't be giving them away, and we shouldn't look at it lightly. And then we can readdress our ordinance if that's what it takes. Councilman Weisenberg?
Yeah, I understand that totally, and I do want the trees, I wanna see it done right though, right? I mean, I'm the one that brought this up because of the way the ordinance is wrote. And, I've been asked to take that on to see what I could do to help with that ordinance also, and, I've been reading on it and reading the ordinance more, and it don't have a clear definition, and of a barrier around a tree or a shrub or a house. And I think, as Councilman Durst had stated, it's more of could be possibly a legal issue, right? Or could be getting something into a situation where someone was over there messing around one of them, or another fence in town that's with that, we could be possibly into a litigation issue. And I don't wanna see that. I understand chain link is more money, but I think the way I have read that ordinance, I think we should do it properly with chain link.
Councilman Martinez?
I agree that with what the ordinance, what we have in our ordinance. I don't agree that fencing these trees with that type of fencing is improper. It's not a fence. It's something to keep these animals from eating up these trees. We didn't have this in the past, so that's probably why it wasn't even in the ordinance. We didn't have a problem. But having said that, when they're talking about fencing a piece of property, I could understand. I recently took a drive over to, Perry Street. There's some wire being used there. That's not a problem with that. You can't even see it. What it was a rock wall with some wire to hold the rocks from falling out. You can't see that. So why would you even wanna use that for an example? I don't know. I did go down there, took a few pictures of it, I didn't bring them. You know, I understand that we need to have that ordinance, and I know that we don't want our community to look the way it would look with that type of wire, everybody in their front yard. I understand that. But all we're trying to do is protect some trees so the animals can't get at them, at least till they grow large enough so that we can do something different. And my suggestion would be also to wait, discuss this ordinance at a different time, unless Councilmember Weisenberg is willing to make a motion on the floor to do something with that ordinance. That would be my suggestion. Just leave as is, and if he wants to change the ordinance, he has all that right in the world, and I'd probably second it for the purpose of discussion, so that we can get it out in the air, but right now is not really a good time, I don't think. That's what I came up with.
I'd like to see what Amy has.
Honorable Council and Mayor, what's problematic for the city is the definition of fence. 1908-157 defines a fence as follows. A fence means a tangible barrier constructed of any allowable material, and you go to that section which identifies those allowable materials, erected for the purpose of providing a boundary or as a means of protection. And that section is what's problematic, because you're fencing in the trees as a means of protection from the trees, from animals and wildlife. So under our definition, it would clearly fall as a fence. Now, that doesn't mean we're stuck with having this on the books. The council can at any time modify the ordinance. It requires 3 readings unless you declare an emergency ordinance. But just based upon that, definition and the fact that it specifically calls out a means of protection, and it goes on to talk about preventing uncontrolled access, decorative purposes, enclosures, separate screens for viewers, those types of things. But for me, from my legal standpoint, the key issue would be a means of protection, which is essentially what the purpose is.
Is that specific to residential areas, zoning?
No, it is clearly defined in, our zoning, so that's the beginning of our zoning, and and those are the definitions for the entire zoning area. So all of the zones would fall to this fencing definition. So I definitely think this is something that the council can take up, the council can modify, and determine whether or not they would like to keep that in there. I think in Wyoming and with our wildlife, it makes sense to modify that, so that, not only homeowners, but, even commercial users have that availability of protecting their new trees and shrubs, from wildlife. But I would agree with, Councilman Weisenberg that under the current definition, that is not a permitted, ability for that.
Councilman Durst.
So can we, in good standing, could we approve this going forward with the idea that we already know, okay, if the council would so choose that they wanted to separate that ordinance or create a clause in there, could we move forward with the trees, because the trees are under a timing situation? Could we move forward with that, with the idea that under the next either meeting or next 2 meetings, we could bring an immediate ordinance, we could bring that into compliance for tree barriers?
So what I would recommend is, if you're going to move forward with the trees being planted, that staff work on alternative methods of protecting those trees from wildlife until this can be modified. We set the standard, and we have to follow our own rules until they are modified or changed. And I think that was the issue. Until it's changed, we, just like every citizen in Rollins, has to follow the code. But with that said, I think that staff can move forward, plant the trees, and find alternative ways of protecting them until you can bring it back for even an emergency ordinance, and brought back for you to get that, clearly identified, that protection around trees is an exemption or something similar to that. Because I agree, in Rollins and Carbon County, definitely need that ability, and I don't see the drawback for not modifying it.
But I think we can pass the ordinance on first reading, bring it back on second reading, pass second and third reading, as an emergency. Is that correct?
So it has shortened requirements. It requires at least 10 days between first reading and third reading. And we could definitely do that. We don't have that presented for you tonight, so we would not be able to do a first reading for you tonight. But staff should be able to draft an emergency ordinance to bring that back to you, so that we can at least correct, the first construction issues. And my apologies to the council. I think this has been such a great project. This tree project has been so wonderful. I don't want to see the public have any negativity towards it. This was strictly an issue. It sounds like an oversight, but nothing intentional.
At the fairgrounds, there was 50 trees planted, and they all had fences around them. No one said a word other than thank you for planting the trees. Almost half the yards in town have these things. For us to let go of this asset, these trees, or spend 10 times more than they're worth on some sort of a fence that meets our requirement right now because somebody 40 years ago didn't think about the difference, and all of a sudden, here we have this problem. I don't think it should cost our town those trees and whatnot. I personally, as mayor, I can make a motion, so I would move that we, allow them to plant the deers, put the hog, fence or whatever it takes to keep the deer out of them, so that they do grow, and then, we at earliest, time address the ordinance.
Second.
So there's been a motion made and seconded to allow the planting of the trees with whatever kind of barrier is necessary, and then instruct the, staff to prepare, an amending ordinance to be presented at our next meeting. Is there any further discussion? Councilman Weisenberg.
So I am the one that, has brought this to the table about the fence, and I'll be perfectly honest. I think if we pass something like this right now, we set a precedent saying it was okay to do what was against our ordinance, and that's where I think we have to set that standard I get it costs a little more money, I don't wanna lose the trees by no means, but I think we need to set up the standard to what it says and work on that. I'm the one that actually, mentioned about the fence to Councilman Martinez, and it's a gabion wall, and they're going up all over the place, right? Not just in Rollins, but other states, and they can make a beautiful fence, but according to our ordinance, we cannot do that, okay, because of the materials being used, okay? So I think this ordinance needs to take some time to address all situations of that, not just some emergency pass so we can plant 12 trees, because we can plant the 12 trees with that, and put chain link up around these 12 trees, which the value of the trees are well over the value of a chain link that'll be around them for 3 years, or until we pass and, get an ordinance amended and passed to bring into compliance, right? I think there's lots of things that need to come into this ordinance. There's some beautiful fencing ideas that could be presented with material change, you know, is all it needs. But I think it takes time, it'll take time to do that, and that's where I stand with this.
Any further discussion, Councilman Martinez?
Chris, I wanna, first of all, I wanna thank you for bringing this up, because apparently you were right, according to our attorney. What I would say is that I think if we're gonna set a precedence, and the precedence is that we're using this hog fence to protect our trees, I don't see that as a problem. If that's the precedent we're gonna send to the public, they ought to have the right to protect their trees. But when it comes back to the council as an ordinance, I can support what you're talking about. Let's make these changes, let's make them right, and I support that ordinance, and again, I thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, I want everybody to know and understand, it's not that I'm against this, by no means. I want the city to set the standard that they're asking everyone else to do. And it's a true fact that people are fencing their whole properties in this. And even though I know it's just a barrier around a tree, which I agree with 100%, it should be a material that could be used for that. But in our ordinance, it don't allow it. And that's the only reason I'm bringing this up. It's the wording in the ordinance, it's the material that's not allowed, and that's the only reason. I don't want to be the person that is sitting here saying, hey, that was never addressed, why didn't we address it, right? Or why are you all okay to do it and we're not? We have a code enforcement officer we're asking to go and enforce ordinances on individuals throughout our community, and how do we send someone to enforce an ordinance when we didn't follow it ourselves? That's what I want to prevent.
And I think what the motion will prevent that. Might set a precedent that can use hog wire to use a barricade around a tree to protect their property. But at the same token, we're gonna be changing that ordinance so that it reads you can't use it as a fence. That's where I'm at, and that's what I think we should be doing.
Councilman Gardner, you had something to say?
I have 2 questions. One's for you. Is there any other material we can put up temporary, or if we plant the trees now, if we wait for 3 readings, is that too long to get the fencing around them?
I think that's kind of a gamble as far as waiting on the fencing.
Is there a cheaper alternative that
specifically how the ordinance is read, the way I understood it, really the only option, it talks about stone or brick and a few other things, I think chain link
4-foot chain link fence would
is
work.
really the only way. And not for this, I guess, discussion, but going forward, looking at the ordinance, I would, suggest maybe we all look at the fencing that was placed at the cemetery most recently, and then go around and look at our park system and cemetery and some of the homes around here, and look at that fencing that is also against the ordinance. But the fencing we put at the cemetery aesthetically is much better than any other fencing we have. So I would hope that moving forward with the ordinance, we take that into consideration. It works well, it bends well around the T-post, and it looks nice. That's moving forward. As far as waiting on the fencing, I haven't been here long enough to know. I think it's a gamble. I know there's a lot of deer in the cemetery, and they move up and down, quite a bit, so, I think chain link would be the only.
Yeah, do you think we could, is there some place, someone who's been here longer, that we could grab some chain link, pretty easily, or?
Yeah, so some chain link.
We have some at some of our parks that we've used, so.
Is it possible to reach out to another government entity for a loan of their chain link, some of their fencing, until we can fix the ordinance? I think it's clear that the council wants to open that up for protection of shrubs and trees. And the council's crushed with not, wanting to have these, trees that have been given to us go to waste and not be planted and grow and be beneficial. But you also don't want to get into the position where you are approving certain violations of municipal code, because you're going to have people come to you and say, in this instance, I want to violate this section of code just as it relates to me. And then you'll be in that variance or board of adjustments where you're granting variations to the code. And so I completely understand the council's, concerns. This is a great project. It is a wonderful project. And moving forward, I think you have staff's commitment to try and find alternative, barriers and protection so that those trees are guarded and protected moving forward until we can get it corrected, because it sounds as if, the council is open to that issue. Maybe not fencing around your property or, around, similar situations, but you are open to at least modifying it to allow that construction of that material for fencing around landscaping.
Well, I just wonder how many thousand infractions of exactly that are in existence today in Rollins. Not hundreds, because I know it's way past hundreds. It's gotta be thousands. It makes no sense to give up these trees, leave them unprotected, to have deer eat, when we can change an ordinance. If we set the precedent of doing something we're going to allow later, we haven't lost a thing. The precedent's been set thousands of times in Rollins.
But not by the city of Rollins. That's
Well,
the key.
yes, there has, actually, there has. In the parks, every place where there's new trees, there's been fences built around them. And some of that's been by the county, some's been by the city, a lot of it by just people. You know, there's a motion on the floor and there's discussion, but, and I'm not gonna say I'm gonna call for the question because I don't wanna get killed, but we've about exhausted this.
I just had one more question with that. I agree with doing, getting the fence ordinance taken care of and changing it and keeping these streets and using our resources best we can to protect them. My question would be to the council: if somebody came in today and wanted the same thing from us for any type of ordinance change that would violate the ordinance, are you willing to vote yes on everything that comes forward to us from here on forward if we do this? Because that's the issue I see. I agree. We set a standard if we violate our own ordinance, and I think it's a misstep in direction. I don't think we want to be like the previous that have taken the missteps. If there's violations like that, they should be handled That's one of the big issues that we have with code enforcement that we're trying to address is take care of the violations. We can't be a violation, that it needs to be taken care of. So that's my question, would you, if something else comes forward,
Yeah.
are you gonna vote yes to violate an ordinance?
Councilman Weisenberg.
So I just, the reason this has come back up again in my eyes, right, is why I brought it back up, is because when we passed a grant or where we granted a 3/4 inch water tap, and it had the resolution for the planting of the orchard in there, and I had specifically stated in that, when that was in the discussion, about the use of that fence. And it was stated that it was already been acknowledged, and it was going to be something different that met our ordinance. So when that was stated, myself, I said, okay, I'll agree to that. But it never happened that way. It went on to be the fence that was a non-approved fence per our ordinance, and I had brought that question up at that point in time. That's why I bring this up, is because I don't want to be the person that's allowing something that's against our own ordinance.
Any further discussion?
Quick question, and then we'll go back to you. So my understanding is all of this is under a grant, so if we plant those without fencing, we're gonna violate the grant, and that won't work anyway, is that? Or are these just extra that wouldn't necessarily fall under the grant?
Well, so the fencing and the T-posts and the trees have already been purchased from the grant. I think the grant expired yesterday, so Abby Perry from the University of Wyoming Extension went and purchased everything to finalize the grant. So that's done. The one thing I wanted to bring up is, as Amy said, maybe, it was brought up in a staff meeting today, that could we keep these trees alive for an extended period of time to wait for the ordinance to be updated and then put them in the ground? And they really need to get in the ground, but I mean, if we're talking 10, 12, 15 days, I think we could probably work with that. But if we're talking a month or a month and a half, that's too long for these trees to be. Right now, some of them are in Abby's backyard laying sideways, I think covered with dirt, trying to keep them healthy. If you go by and look at the ones at the cemetery, they're already blooming, they have, leaves coming up and everything. So how soon we might be able to get to this ordinance might give council some leniency to hold off.
If I was correct, and it seemed to me that I've done it in the past, other councils have done it in the past, we passed the reading of the first of the ordinance on the first meeting in July. The second meeting in July, we passed the second reading and passed the third reading on an emergency the same night. Is that correct?
So the requirements specifically just identify a public hearing at first and a third reading. We can get it wrapped up and still be within statute. The question is, has staff begun writing that ordinance so that it'll be able to be presented to you? If it's able to be presented to you at the next meeting, next Tuesday, you've already got first reading next Tuesday, followed by the week after, which could be your third and final and public hearing. But I don't know where staff is in developing that change.
Well, and if we're gonna do it right, there's two things. We probably should, maybe, can we just take a vote and see where we're at, and then move on? I mean, there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Technically, you're correct, yeah.
So,
Deal with the motion and then further discussion.
well, there's been a motion made and seconded, and if it passes, we put it to bed. If it fails, then we decide who to give the trees to, and, rewrite this ordinance, which, if we're gonna include rock walls and every conceivable fencing option there is in the world today, we're not gonna do that in 2 weeks.
Could we feasibly just address the exception to tree, and then could it go in a step? I mean, could we put tree exemption in for the next meeting and then the reading after that, to amend it to allow that for trees, and then the rest of the things could be researched?
What I would strongly recommend, we didn't advertise this as an action item. What I would strongly recommend is that this council give your employees direction on ensuring that the trees in question do not, go to waste, that we work with all due haste to identify modes of protection that fit within the code in the meantime. Once that ordinance is changed, we can remove whatever is currently protecting them and replace them with the like material that we have currently. And so what I would say to this council is, your employees hear you loud and clear, and we do not want those trees to go to waste either. We wanna work within the current code, and get you the code that you wanna see amended and brought back to you, without any further missteps.
What we can do about the trees that are at the cemetery, we need to tear that fence down then.
We will work with staff to identify alternative, we'll contact other government entities or other entities that may have chain link fencing in the meantime to get that corrected.
I mean, if it's illegal, we need to get, and we've decided, and if we decide we're not gonna, do anything about it, then we need to get rid of that fence too.
Absolutely, it's an all or nothing proposition, no one is above the law, everyone's held accountable, and everyone should be given the same opportunity to come within the law. And so this would be a message to all of our residents out there that this is currently out there, this is the code. If you wanna seek input into this issue, then contact your city council members and, attend the public hearing on this matter, but I believe, you're absolutely correct there, that if it's not a legal construction for the city, it's not a legal construction for the city residents as well, and it would apply to all government entities in the city of Rollins.
So if we buy a chain link fence and put it around the stuff at the cemetery, that will protect that grant, correct?
It will protect the grant, and it will also conform with the current code requirements.
Where would that money come from? What account will that money come from to buy that fence? Because no one's gonna give us a few $1,000s of the fence, or a few $100s of the fence.
We could use a contingency budget as one area for that.
Yeah, we used to have a city manager beautification fund that we've used in the past.
Two places.
It would just depend on, what, funds are available and whether or not this fits the definition for that fund. But we'll definitely look at the budget and see if there is a fund that identifies or that fits close with this. And I know it's tied to your current, strategic plan, beautification, trees, beautification, and those, so this would fall and coincide with that, but we would be happy to, research that for you and get you an email with that information and confirming it. We honestly do not wanna see the trees go to waste, we wanna see them in the ground. We also wanna see them protected, but we wanna see them protected within the code until we can get the code changed.
And then if we could find a place to use this chain link after we change the ordinance, the baseball field or someplace. I hate to buy a large amount of chain link fence just to leave it lay somewhere. We need to find a place that we can use that chain link fence. It's a waste of money. I mean, we're not talking, I don't know what we're talking, probably.
I don't know how much, we're talking about either. I would be happy to call a couple of the local businesses even tomorrow on my own time to try and see if we can get some donations to help fill that gap. It's a project that's near and dear to many in our staff, and I don't wanna see it fail, but I also wanna make sure that moving forward, we are within the code until we can change it.
So
I just had maybe a follow-up question for legal, and I feel obligated to bring up the fact that all of the fencing in all of our parks and cemetery are in this same category, if we're looking at complying. And so my question, I guess, is there a precedent that was set because that fencing might have been put in 20 years ago?
If it's illegal, it's gotta be changed out to
just
chain
so that
link right away.
Staff has clear direction.
That's where
If
we're
we're
going.
removing the fencing at the cemetery, I think that we would have to remove all fencing in all parks.
I couldn't agree
What I'm
more.
hearing is the shrubs and landscaping protection. I'm not hearing that the council, is moving forward with that type of material for exterior fencing for boundaries, but I could be wrong. And so it would depend on what the council decides moving forward. If it's going to allow this exemption for landscaping, then it would be an exception for landscaping. However, if the council changes the ordinance completely and they add it to where that you can utilize this fencing material for all fences within the city, then you do not have to do anything as long as it comports within that definition. But it's, again, up to the council and what they want the community to look like and what they want their fencing boundaries to look like.
So, is there any more discussion before we vote?
So, I guess does the ordinance have to be addressed as a all or none ordinance, or can we piecemeal it together? Meaning, so I understand there's rock walls and all these other things to address. That needs some time and some effort, but right now, if all of us were in agreement that just that paneling for the purposes of shrubbery or tree protection, could we address that over the next couple of meetings and just add that one piece and then address the rest of the stuff later and bring that in? Or does it all need to get addressed all in one shot? Is that clear what I'm asking?
So it would depend on your code enforcement officer and how engaged they are. Obviously, we have some, statements today that there are fences within the city properties that are using this for exterior boundary fencing and not simply for landscaping boundaries or protections. So if you just modify.
We don't have that fencing in our parks that are fencing the parks, but we have probably more than 100 trees that are fenced in with that same type fencing. That's where I'm looking for clear direction for staff. Moving forward, are we moving forward with replacing fencing throughout our entire park system that are protecting trees?
So that's what I'm asking, is if we could just address that one issue, get it knocked out in the next couple of weeks, and then let the rest of this come with time.
Yes, if his clarifying statement is this material is only around landscaping and shrubs in the park, then this would clarify that issue for the city of Rollins. You still have those issues with private property owners that are using it for exterior boundary fencing. And so that would still be against the code.
Sure.
But you would be correcting the lapse or the inability for people to utilize this construction material for shrubbery, landscaping protection, and those types of things. So that would clarify it.
So, Mr. Mayor, would you be comfortable moving forward with just trying to knock just that section out as fast as possible? Then all of the trees will all be legal moving here forward.
Well, but
It's not ideal, but it gets.
I want to make a point here that sometimes the rules aren't right.
Agreed.
They don't fit the circumstances. What do? Do you do something silly, or do you change the rules? I'm saying we should probably change the rules.
Agreed.
But in the meantime, we have trees that are gonna die. That would be an asset, not a huge thing. But we have 100 and however many trees now that we're gonna have to be out changing fencing tomorrow morning and spending a bunch of money that I'd rather spend on something else. And, to me, it's like, and that's why I made the motion, plant the fence, plant the trees, put a reasonable fence around it, then let us do our work to do that. And as Councilman Martinez said, yeah, we'd be setting a precedent. We would. It'd be like it's okay to use hog wire temporarily around your trees. That's a precedent that I would like to make put it in the ordinance, make it permanent. It'd be different if we didn't have 200-pound mice running around the place, but they eat everything, and they ruin everything. And if you don't put fences around the trees, then the trees will be gone the very next day. They'll eat them all. They won't go eat the old ones, they'll eat all the new ones. Do we wanna go exactly by the rules? Well, if so, somebody better get out some chain link fence tomorrow.
And Mr. Mayor, I really agree with everything you're saying. My problem I'm having is what our attorney told us, that if we bypass this rule, we're effectively saying that we are going against our own ordinance.
And I agree, but,
That's the problem I'm having. I hate.
but if we're going that
What
way,
the answer to that is.
but if we're going that way and with that train of thought, tomorrow morning, somebody needs to get their tail in gear and go out there to them 100 trees that are in the park and get them fences down. I mean, you can't have it both ways. The only thing that'll be happy is deer. They'll be tickled to death. Not a lot of new food. So there's a motion on the floor. Any more discussion?
I think Sean has something, you had your hand up?
No, this is a tough situation. I would feel more comfortable, even though this is, feels like a waste of money, to go get chain link fence
And do all the trees.
and start working on it until we can fix the ordinance.
And something for the council to be aware of, through code enforcement, the city, code enforcement officer gives a first notice and gives typically at least 10 days to gain compliance within the code. So we work with all violations. We do not want to be in a position where the city of Rollins is the violator, absolutely not. But in this situation, we find ourselves in that position. What I would say is, you're absolutely right, Mayor. If this information is brought to us that we are out of compliance with our own codes on city property, we have to lead by example, and if that means that we need to replace with, construction materials that are approved, then that's what we do. Hopefully, in the meantime, what I can commit, if the council wants to direct me, is I can prepare an amendment to the municipal code exempting specifically landscaping protections, for this specific purpose. I could get it, first reading or a draft to you probably as early as tomorrow by 5. It can be presented to you for first reading next Tuesday. Hearing you, and I completely understand your concerns, just give me that direction, and I'm happy to get it done.
I know you,
We still have a motion.
I agree with, we'll vote on the motion. I would just ask that we support her moving forward with the emergency language to get this done as fast as
Why
possible.
don't you make that?
For the trip.
We can't, there's a motion on the
There's
floor.
a motion on the floor, and he can amend that motion,
Yeah, it's true.
Well,
and we can.
But
vote
the-
on it.
yeah, I won't. We'll go to the motion.
All right, please open online voting. Okay, the motion was to plant the trees, put an appropriate barrier around them like we've done in the past, and then, to diligently, work and have the staff work on changing the ordinance to, support that action.
And I had Aaron second it.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So I call for the vote,
Yes,
all in favor?
aye.
No.
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 No. Unfortunately.
No.
All right, so is there anything else, instructions for the staff?
Mr. Mayor, I would request that the council, allow staff to go forward and immediately prepare the change of ordinance to, I guess, amend the ordinance to allow for the, paneling for landscape protection use, not property barrier or property delineation.
Just make that a motion.
Does it need to be a motion, or do we just agree to that? It's just staff direction. So,
Thank you.
so is there anybody who disagrees, I guess, would be the question.
No, I appreciate that, thank you.
So still leave him with a question what to do with his trees.
Well, and so the first thing I would think is that we'll see if we can take care of these trees in the time frame that it takes. for us to get this ordinance. The other question I have, because this is the busiest time of year for our park staff, we're still dealing with some fairly major leaks in our park system that we're trying to get things cleaned up. I'm hoping that we could get direction from council to hold off on replacing, because I don't know how we would come up with the time to replace all the fencing in the park. And I hear Amy mention code enforcement and a notice. Could we utilize that time frame so that we're not shifting gears this week by removing fencing and replacing fencing? That's my concern right now with everything else that we have going on. Could we utilize that timeline with code enforcement?
So, if it's okay with everyone, I think maybe you and I could work on this issue and we can go on to the next item, if that's all right.
Well, the sooner you get it replaced, the better Chris and I'll feel. Leave you with that, Todd. All right.
Thank you.
I think we're still at city manager's report.
I don't have any other items.
Okay, city council reports and direction to the city. Anybody have anything? Councilman Weisenberg?
Yeah, we had a, planning and zoning meeting, I believe, two Wednesdays ago, I believe it was, last week. Temporary special use, permit was, on the agenda, and it was, it's recommended to support that, but it wasn't a unanimous decision on that either, so, just know that that'll be coming forth, I believe should be on the next agenda coming forth. And then also in that meeting, we're working with the bylaws for the Planning and Zoning Commission also, so that'll be coming forward, shortly also, I'd imagine.
Okay, is there anybody else? Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, I did receive a call in regard to, vendor's card, is that what they call it, for beverages. I guess they haul the beverages out to the golfers. I was told that cart was in real bad shape. I was told that, it was suggested, I guess at the board, that they try to find another cart. And, there was some discussion around that. I'd like the staff to look into that, see if whatever they said is true, make arrangements to do something with it. I understand it's in the contract that we're supposed to have a cart. Right now, I went down and talked to, the concessionaire. They're using a golf cart to haul stuff back and forth. I'd like to see that, I think, that looked into.
Is there anything else? All right, thank you. Hearing none, we'll go to approving a 24-hour catering permit for Michael's Big City Bar and Grill for June 5th, 2021 in the city of Bags. Come on up, Michael.
Do you need a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we do.
I move to approve the 24 catering permit to Michael's City Bar and Grill for the 10th annual Bags Ball at the Valley Community Center, 225 West Osborne Street, Bags, Wyoming, on Saturday, June 5th, 2021.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve a 24-hour catering permit to Michael's City Bar and Grill for the 10th annual Bags Ball at the Valley Community Center, 225 West Osborne Street in Bags, Wyoming, on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. Does anybody want to speak to that, Michael?
Honorable Mayor and, worthy council members, thank you for having me. So we've been honored it's our 4th year that we've been able to go to Bags and do their, fundraiser for them. So it's a great thing, kind of like the Elk Foundation or the NRA and those kinds of things. So the town of Bags, their opportunity to raise money with an auction and a dinner, to fund their community center and some programs like that. So, we expect over 300 people. So it's a worthwhile endeavor, and, you know, like I said, we're honored to be able to be there. So, we take our crew down and we set up at their facility. We have our $1 million liquor liability, insurance policy that we carry with us, and we make them the additional insured. We have all of our, individuals that are certified, TIPS, trained when we go down, and we, take all the appropriate steps to make sure that everybody is safe, and, we offer a good service for everybody.
I've been to a couple of those you catered, and you do a fantastic job, and it is a great event.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, you know, I just wanted to, also add, so, ironically, this year, the city of town of Bags has decided to not make, chips, necessary for any of their functions that they have, unlike other towns and other cities, but it doesn't affect us, because as a tips instructor, I make sure that my employees are trained, because at the end of the day, it's my name on the wall that says, we're responsible and we're liable. So I wanna make sure that my employees and my people and my family is safe, and we ensure that to everybody else, so. Great, thank you very much.
You do a great job.
May you all continue to be blessed with the decisions and the strength and the staff and, the executives do all that you're doing, so good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Mr. Mayor. Mike,
Yes.
I think state law says that next time you have to bring candied bacon.
I was gonna. Thanks, everybody.
That could be a rumor.
Come on.
All right, any further discussion? Please open online voting.
It's open. Councilmember Martinez, are you all set, or do you need me to help? Oh, okay, thank you. Online voting has now closed. The motion passes with 6 yeas.
All right, thank you. It's a great event, Michael does a great job. All right, next thing on the agenda is, adopt a pedestrian tube, and the presenter is, Deborah, how do you spell that?
Honorable Mayor and Council, first of all, don't ask me about the deer, because my things are all in the fence for one reason now. So, for years, like 25 years now, and I'm under code also, okay? Okay, what I'm here for is that we heard, some complaints about the pedestrian tube over here. And so we took a walk down there and found it does need some work and all that. So I've been in contact with Patty Hayes, because she was working on the other one, and Danielle, because she does all that stuff. And, I'd like to adopt that to be kind of my project, our project, because Terry won't let me build a tunnel, so she's gonna have to help me do this one. We've been there, we actually went there yesterday, and there's like 10 people that went there, and every one of them thanked us for cleaning that up and all that. There is a few problems, which I'm sure that, I don't know how that works, but I think Danielle will, I'm sure, once you tell her what we found or whatever, if I haven't seen that yet. And she's offered me the services of the thing, so once it gets to that point, which is not there yet, but they will help us get that done and all that, and be freshly painted, we're gonna paint it all, and I'm not sure what the rest is gonna be in the works, but I think it'll be fun. We even had a little kid pick up a broom yesterday coming through and helping us. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, so, yeah, everybody, more people that I've had use that tunnel, I had no idea, but it was, it's cool, it's a cool tunnel, I love tunnels, so.
Councilman Martinez.
I just wanna thank you for taking that project on. I really appreciate it, and I know for a lot of times that the staff has gone down there and whitewashed it with paint, and it's just a tough place to keep it nice. But I think that if you use the same style that they have on the tube down on Washington, that I think it'll be nice, and it's something that we can keep clean. So I appreciate it, thank you very much.
Yes, no problem.
Councilman Weisenberg.
Yeah, I wanna say thank you, dearly. It's awesome to see citizens, and members of the council getting involved in the community and taken on a project of such to beautify our city, because that is a dungeon to walk through. I've had a lot of people come and talk to me about that tunnel, themselves, so, it's gonna be, per se, a light to the tunnel, the dark tunnel there, you know, that'll help our community better itself, and I appreciate that, thank you.
I believe they did just replace the lights recently, and it is fairly bright in there. I've never been in there in the total dark yet, but I probably will. I might do that one later, I don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say now, you think, oh, we just had some kids come through and they said, I told them, I said, he said, what are you gonna put on the wall? I said, I do not know yet, but I do not want it graffiti, or it's things written on the wall that are appropriate. She said, you mean like graffiti? And he's what, probably second grade, third grade? I said, yeah, graffiti, but we don't want the bad kind, so I think we got kids in there that'll watch it and make sure there's no graffiti being on there.
Well, and half the people that came through there talked for a minute and grabbed a broom. And so we learned a lesson, take more brooms.
You know, I guess, one other thing, if you're doing art type stuff in there, just to spruce it up and stuff, will we have any extra from that Martinez mural to kind of go over that to prevent the graffiti if it was to happen?
That tunnel is 300 feet long, roughly. I don't know, but it's long. And we decided that, I think what happened was they went out to the dump and they got all the light paint, mixed it together because it looks like dirt. And it's light, but it's fairly light dirt. And, we're gonna paint it white. And the reason for that is when somebody goes in there and writes stuff that shouldn't be on there, we can go paint it white. And it doesn't stick out, because right now it looks like a quilt. But it really isn't in that bad a shape, but I was amazed how many people use it, and anyway. Yes, ma'am.
I wanna thank you too. I run through there all the time.
Oh, cool.
So,
I'll make sure I have a
so
broom.
if you see me.
Have a broom on either side.
Making a big noise on the corners.
We do appreciate it, thank you. Yep.
All right, next thing on the agenda is, I got approval of the payroll. Councilman Durst?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the payroll register for May 9, 2021 through May 22, 2021 in the amount of $230,683.77.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the payroll register for May 9th, 2021 through May 22nd, 2021 in the amount of $230,683.77. Is there any further discussion? Please open online voting.
It's open. Online voting has now closed. The motion carries with 6 yeas.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is approve the accounts payable. Councilman Martinez?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the accounts payable for the amount of $436,032.94 for May 1st, 2021.
I'll second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve the accounts payable register for the period of May 1st, 2021 to May 27th, 2021 in the amount of $436,032.94. Any further discussion? All in favor, please open online voting.
It's open. Online voting has now closed. The motion carries with 6 yeas.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is to, look at a, Walnut Street rehab, bid, I guess. And it's part of the special purpose tax. The, Community Development Director Danielle is on a family emergency. Is there anybody else here that can speak to that, Sean? Oh,
Yeah, I'll speak.
We need a motion.
oh, I'm sorry. God,
Sorry.
I'm in the tunnel.
I move to award the 2021 Walnut Street Rehab Habilitation to Kilburg Companies doing business as Lewis & Lewis in the amount of $1,436,169.04. funded by the 2019 Specific Purpose Act.
I'll second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to award the 2021 Walnut Street rehabilitation to Kilgore Companies, doing business as Lewis and Lewis in the amount of $1,436,169.04, funded by the 2019 Specific Purpose Tax. Is there any further discussion? Okay.
I'll take this item. I visited with Danielle earlier today. I think she is on the phone in case you have some really specific questions, but, so this is the Sixpenny, funded project. We do have funding completely for this, bid. Danielle said that the anticipated costs were gonna be about $1.9 million. I remember what she said correctly. And then it's, as you can see, it's come in a lot lower than that at 1.4 something. A bid bond was provided. Danielle and Carl were the ones to review the bid. It was only one bid, and this bid did meet all the specifications that were needed. And that's all the information we have on this one.
Okay, any further discussion? Please open online voting.
Online voting is open. Online voting has now closed. The motion carries with 6 yeas.
Thank you. All right. Next thing on our agenda is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Rollins Municipal Code, 10.54.020 license plate display. Do I hear a motion? Councilman Garner?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve an ordinance amending Rollins Municipal Code, section 10.54.020, license plate display on first reading and waive reading of the ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay. There's been a motion made and seconded to approve an ordinance amending Rollins Municipal Code, section 10.54.020, license plate display on first reading and waive reading of the ordinance. Is there any discussion? I asked for this to come up because what's happened is, the state of Wyoming says you have to have a license plate on the front and back of the car unless the car was not, made with a front license plate holder. And our city ordinance says you have to have one on front and rear. Like a Cadillac Escalade, I'll let you drill in the front of it, airbags and all the different things. You can't modify those vehicles. So I asked that this, ordinance change, be made to be copacetic with the state law.
So what you're saying is that if a vehicle doesn't have an area for a license plate in the front, they can have one in the back?
Correct. The state law is the same way. Some vehicles did not come with a place for a license plate on the front. Most cars do, some don't. And the ones that don't, there's just no reasonable way to put them on.
Would this hinder law enforcement? No,
It's a state law.
it's a state law already.
State law says back and front if it is equipped with a license plate holder. All I asked was that the two are copacetic. So if you're driving through Cheyenne, you're legal, you get to Rollins, you get picked up because you got no front license plate, so there's no place to put one.
Okay.
So that's why.
I mean, I guess in the end, I get it, it's state law, I don't know that I agree with it, but that's past my pay grade. I guess my question is, when we say that it doesn't come with it, I bought a vehicle that did not have a front license plate thing, but they you just had to go buy a kit. So is the law read that if it doesn't have one, you don't have to put it on?
Some vehicles are not designed to even have a front license plate.
I think it has to be manufactured with the holder, not just a kit that you can put on.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean, so because in one state, you didn't have to have a front plate, and in another state, you do. So they put it out without it, but because the other state would force it, then they made one that you could put on.
When I was selling new cars, that, believe it or not, the front license plate holder was an option. Because some states didn't require them.
Yeah, and that's what I mean,
but-
so that's my question.
But if it's an option, that's one thing, but some vehicles just don't come with a front license plate, period. They don't come with them.
Say, I go with it just because it's state law, but I don't.
And that's why the state law had to change was because, well, there are just certain vehicles, and Escalade's one, Corvette's one, some of the Ferraris and some of those things you don't ever see around here, but still, that's what the state law says, so,
I'd agree that we gotta go with what the state law says.
yeah. There's a reason the state changed it. And it's because some manufacturers just don't have front license, a place to even put a front license plate. And in the old days, in an old 53 Chevy, you got out of the drill and a bed, and you put a license plate on the bumper. You don't do that with the new cars. You'll set off airbags, and you could compromise safety equipment. You just don't do it, you know. So, that's where it's at. Councilman Weisenberg?
Maybe asking interim chief Craig, do you think that's a hindrance in your duty? If it, I know we wanna come in the same compliance as what the state has, but is it hinder you all in your job?
As far as, I mean, we enforce both city and state laws. So, as far as the city ordinance, we can be more restrictive, but we can't be less restrictive. So if we're gonna require, which is what, my understanding of this law would be, is that we are more restrictive, meaning that it is in compliance with us being required to have one in the front and one in the rear. The state, when you go get your plates, they do give you 2 plates. And, I mean, there are some cars that you have the option to order that bracket, but that's, again, you know, if you were gonna, comply and make it read equal to the state law, then, you know, that's something that we would still enforce, so.
So do you have to register anything special to do that, to have only one plate? Is there like a?
It just provides the exceptions, and so.
No, but I mean, is there a special registration process? Like, do you go in when you register that vehicle and say, okay, I have a vehicle?
No.
So how do you, I guess how do you know that it didn't come with a front plate?
Right.
Listen, I get that this is state law, and that's not, I'm just.
Sure. I mean, typically, our guys would look for, holes in the front bumper, brackets, anything like that to indicate that there was an option for that. If you buy a new vehicle and, there wasn't a bracket or holes in that bracket, or maybe a cutout, that's molded into the front bumper, then we would look at, maybe leaving that one away, not stopping that vehicle or enforcing that one, just because that one is questionable. Whether or not that was directly manufactured not to have a front license plate or let the front license plate bracket, I think is a much deeper question in regards to manufacturing than what we.
So this will just read exactly what the state law says. Is that?
Amy?
Is that?
Yes,
We're just taking the state law and saying this is not our ordinance.
we had a request, to add a subsection A and D, which I'll be presenting, between second reading, but other than adding subsection A and a subsection B by definition, it is incorporated fully, the state statute.
And there's a reason the state did that,
No, I get that.
because some cars don't come with it.
Like I say, in
And
the end,
it's not,
this argument is way above
but,
my opinion.
you know, I just would hate to think somebody, you know, could drive in any other town in Wyoming, but if they come to Rollins, they're gonna
You
get picked
technically
up
are
because they don't have a license plate on the front.
And then force him to make that call, some sweet little old lady, right?
You know, that's what brought me up with some sweet little old lady, to be honest
It's her
with you.
Corvette.
Yeah,
I think it's good that we bring in compliance with the state law too. I just want to.
Well, it's crazy to be that different.
Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
It's open. Online voting has not closed, the motion passes with 6 yeas.
Thank you. All right, next thing on the agenda is, the first reading of the 2021-22 fiscal, annual budget. I would entertain a motion. Vice Mayor Wells.
I move to approve on first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance adopting the proposed fiscal year municipal annual budget 2021 to 2022 as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded to move to approve on first reading and waive the reading of the ordinance adopting the proposed fiscal year municipal annual budget 2021-2022 as presented. Any discussion?
I have a question. So you got part of the, audit back?
We haven't got the audit yet, they sent just an item or two, or debt schedule. Yeah, I haven't even looked at it yet.
No, okay. I was gonna ask if it was in line, if our numbers were in line with what you've seen.
We don't know yet, yeah, we haven't got that yet.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Please open online voting.
It's open. Online voting has not closed, the motion carries with 6 yeas.
Thank you. Is there anything else that needs to come before this body? Everybody's grabbing for their lid. All right, it is 9:08, and I'll adjourn this meeting. There is a special meeting June 8th at 6 p.m., and, the next regular meeting will be June 15th, 2021, council meeting. Council chambers, thank you all.
Is that doable?